friends, Kim from Stamping Imperfection. I'm here with a video for Scrappy Tails Crafts, and I'm using this Rose Trellis stamp set to create a scene card today. So I'm just cutting down my card base to 4 1/4 by 11, and my card front is cut at 4 by 5 1/4. So I'm kind of pulling out the stamps that I want to use and kind of placing them where I think I might want them and deciding which stamps I'm going to use, because I need to create masks for them. And I'm going to use this Ink-a-Dink-a-Doo masking paper. I've used this for a long time, and I love this. It's good masking paper. So I'm just putting down the stamps that I'm using on the masking paper, and I'm using my Pentel high polymer eraser to condition the stamps because this is the first time I've used them. I pulled out my Color Hive Eclipse black ink. I really like this ink for my Copic coloring. You can't use it for your watercoloring projects because it's a dye-based black ink. It is perfect for alcohol markers. I'm using a little bit of my Maker Forte Squid Buster cleaner to clean off my stamps. That ink cleans beautifully off the stamps using that cleaner. And that ink, by the way, is also from Maker Forte. I quite like it. So then I'm just going to fussy cut out all of the masks that I made. And I'll just fussy cut each and every one of these pieces so I can use them to overlay as I stamp things. So I have my masks done, and then I can just play with them to see how I want to lay things out. So I know what needs to go in front, because the things that are in front, which will be the pillow, the dog, and the hat, have to get stamped first. So I start by laying out my actual stamps, and I'm putting them down as if I'm stamping them, so that the back of the stamp is up, and I place them in the reverse order of how I'm going to stamp them. So the ones in front would be the ones on top, and I could just pick them up. So that kind of allowed me to place everything and put it on the sheet exactly where I wanted it. So I went ahead and I stamped the dog, the hat, and the pillow. Those are the things that will appear to be on the bench. And now I'm just covering them up with the masks, and those masks are reusable, so don't throw those away. So now I'm just placing my bench in there over the top of everything else, cleaning off the stamps that I've used, and then I'll put those back on my stamp sheet and I'll stamp my bench. So I'm going to use that same Color Hive black ink. I really like this because it requires virtually no drying time, and I can start coloring with my Copic markers right away. So I really like it. So it's perfect for alcohol marker coloring. You don't want to use dye-based markers or water-based markers or watercolors because this is a dye-based black ink. So I put the mask of the bench over top of that, and then I put the trellis stamp in place, and then I just stamped that. And I didn't really need the trellis mask, but I created it anyway while I was stamping everything, and then fussy cut it out. So I have that. Now all of those masks will go in the package that I keep the stamp set in, and then they are all ready to go the next time I use a stamp set. So like, I love that you can save them. So I'm peeling off the mask and I'm just sticking them all together. And that is exactly how I'll store them. I don't bother putting them back on their sheets. You could stick them to the plastic that the stamp set comes in if you wanted to as well. So that is the little scene I've created. So I'm just pulling out some Copic markers, and I'm going to start with the flowers on the rose trellis, just because I feel like they'll be the quickest and easiest. And I'm not doing any great detail on those. I'm using two red-violet colors, RV09, and I'm doing the center of all the flowers with the RV09, and then I'm using RV02 to blend out that darker one and do the edges of the flowers. So I'm not doing any, like, though there are a lot of flowers on there, and I decided I'm just not going to do a lot of fussy coloring with those flowers because it isn't going to matter. I think just having the bright colors on there will be really pretty, and at least I have 2 different colors to shade there. You could do 3 if you really wanted to really blend it a little bit better. If you feel like that looks too stark. The leaves are really tiny on this, so I pulled out G07, which I'm using for the base of each of the leaves, and then I'm going to fill it in with the G02. So I just kind of quickly fill in the base and a little bit up the center, and then I'm going to go ahead and fill in the next part with the G02. So you can see I'm using the G02 here, just filling it in. And the biggest thing is making sure you get all of them, because I feel like there's so many little leaves, it's easy to miss. But it's so pretty when it's done. Like, the colors are just lovely when you complete it. It's definitely worth the time it took to do this. So this took me about an hour and 20 minutes to do. And I used those same 2 pink colors on the 3 flowers on the hat. So I'm just going to keep it pretty simple. And then of course, that little puppy needs to get colored next because he's just too cute for words. So I pulled out some colors. I pulled out E19, E15, E13, and E11. And I started with the E19 and just did a few of the spots where I thought it would be darkest, and then I moved on to E15, then E13, and I didn't leave a lot of space for the E11, but I did leave enough to get a little bit of a light color in there. So I forgot to do his tail there. So for the white spots, I'm just using C1 and C00 to color those in. And then I'm using W7 and W1, I think I used, for his nose, because his nose is pretty tiny, but I do want it to be darker. So I pulled out some blues to do the ribbon on the hat and 2 of the stripes on the pillows. I'm using B39, B37, and then B34. And then I pulled out the RV09 and RV02 to do the other 2 stripes in the pillows. There's 4 stripes altogether. Then I pull out, this is one of my favorite color combinations. For the straw hat and for the rest of the pillow, I'm using YR24. And you can see I put the YR24 sort of in the corners on the right hand side and very lightly along the base of the hat and the base of the top side of the ribbon. And then I moved on to that was YR27, by the way, and then YR24. And you can see I'm doing the same thing with the pillows, and I started in the corners and kind of flicked out toward the center. Then YR23, and I filled it in with YR21, and I really like the way they came out. Like, I like the color. It's a bit brighter because that YR23 is in there. It's a nice bright color combination. So for the bench, I'm using a darker brown tone. So I started with E39, and I'm just filling in a bunch of the different slats. And the back, I started to do individual slats, and I was going to really color that and be fussy about it. But again, I feel like the hat, the pillow, and the dog are the real details. And I really wanted some shading on the bench part of the bench. So I moved on to E35 and then E31 and filled in any bits left over with E30. And then I just started really just filling in the whole back with the E31 and, getting it all covered. And I missed the one slat, so I have to go back and do that. And, you know, once you start filling it in, it gets easier to see, you know, if you missed a spot or what else needs to be colored. So that completes the bench, and I actually really like this. So for my grass, I pulled out my favorite grass combination. This is Y61, and I basically just covered the whole background where I want the grass to be. And then I took it's YG61, by the way, and I just filled in the whole back, and I'll come back to the grass. I pulled out Y3, Y1, and Y0. Actually, Y4, Y2, and Y0. And I'm just doing the trellis part. I kind of wanted it to look a little bit white, so I went with the warm gray colors. And again, this was a challenge to fill in. I tried to fill in one line of like each slat so that I wouldn't accidentally fill in like part of a slat and then where the slat isn't and the sky is going to show through. So like I took my time on this part actually and just filled this in. So I basically used W4, W2, W1, and W0 on there. And then I went back to the grass and used YG67 and put some grass flicks in. And then I pulled out YG63 and added some more. And then I decided that I would pull out the YG61 and do flicks all in between what I had made so it would look more textured. And I'm sort of like making a flick to the left and a flick to the right, and you know, kind of varying it, but it gave me more texture in the grass and I liked it better. Like it started to really feel like a scene. So now I'm creating my clouds. For clouds, I like to use C1 in BV0000, and I just sort of flick in a curve, like a C curve up to the left, and that might be because I'm left-handed. I create a few flicks and I try to vary them in height like clouds would be. And then I just fill in the rest of the sky with BG, and I believe this is BG000. And I'm making sure I get between the slats and around the clouds. So basically I form the top of the cloud with that, and then I fill in all around the cloud. And I get inside the bench where the slats didn't cover. I make sure blue goes everywhere on there. And it's a pretty light blue, so you don't see it on camera very well, but you do see it really well in person. I really like the color. I always feel like I should use a darker color just so it shows up on camera and in pictures, but when I send this to somebody, that blue looks so pretty, and the clouds show up really well. So I was trying to fit one of the sentiments in that stamp set in there, but they're pretty big, so they didn't fit on my scene. I could heat emboss them in like silver or something and make it work. So I kept pulling out sentiments that I'd already had pre-made from my sentiment cup, but I didn't really find anything. So I decided to pull out the Maker Forte Simple Sayings, and this is the Just Because set, and I'm doing one that's just a note to say hi, I think it says. So just like a general all occasion greeting that I can send, and I just trim that down. Those are cut aparts, and you get 3 sheets in a set, and I really love having cut apart sentiments because I just spent all this time coloring and I don't want to mess up the sentiment. So I glued this onto a piece of bright pink cardstock, and then I used my trimmer to trim down the cardstock so that the sentiment, or so the little pink showed evenly around the edges. And I did the same thing with the sentiment I just cut out. I wanted to give it a little pink matte. And now I'm pulling out my card base. I folded that in half and just gave it a nice crease. I always open it up to glue it on, and then I'm going to add a little bit of glue to the back of my sentiment, add my sentiment to the card as well. And that's going to complete my card. I'm going to link all the things I used below and my favorite basic tools that I've been using a lot lately, like some of the ones you see here. And that is going to complete this card. Like, now it's just a matter of deciding where I want that sentiment to go. So this is the Rose Trellis stamp set from Scrappy Tails Crafts, and that was Inkadinkadoo masking paper. And again, this took me about an hour and 20 minutes to do in real time. And those, save those masks. They can be used again. And just tuck them in your envelope, and that is that. So I would love it if you would give this video a thumbs up and leave a comment to tell me what you liked about this card, and do you like making scene cards, and do you find it relaxing? I'd love to know that, because I definitely do. So thank you so much for watching, my friends. Please subscribe to my channel while you're here, and share this video with your friends. Have a wonderful day.